Hi, I'm Gene Benson. This video is the second of a three-part series presented by our safety initiative, Vectors for Safety. Please visit vectorsforsafety.com for a wide variety of aviation safety material. While you are there, please sign up for our free monthly newsletter to keep informed of upcoming webinars, new online courses, and much more. Now, let's look at part 2 of Sometimes It's the Little Things. Many pilots fly with a four-legged member of the family along. Some additional precautions must be taken to ensure that the animal does not interfere with the pilot's duties, especially with the flight controls. The pilot of a flight-design light sport airplane died when his large dog apparently interfered with the flight controls on landing. The dog escaped without serious injuries. The pilot routinely flew with his large dog in the right passenger seat. According to the NTSB accident report, the pilot had taken precautions to prevent the dog from interfering with the rudder pedals. As shown in this NTSB photo, a plywood guard was installed by the pilot. Although the device was not approved to be installed in the airplane, there was no evidence that it interfered with the full movement of either control stick or the pilot's side rudder pedals. The NTSB probable cause finding states, quote, "The pilot's decision to fly with his large dog in the two-seat light sport airplane and the dog's likely contact with the flight controls during landing, which resulted in the pilot's loss of airplane control and a subsequent aerodynamic stall when the airplane exceeded its critical angle of attack." End quote. What about some little lessons to be learned from this? Well, when flying with an animal as a passenger, take every precaution to prevent the animal from interfering with the flight. And consider taking animals in a crate if possible, or only in rear seats if that isn't possible. The next accident epitomizes our theme of "It's the little things." You probably recall having a flight instructor insist that you always track your flight time because tracking time in flight is the best way to monitor your fuel state. How do we check the time? Almost all airplanes have a panel-mounted clock of some sort. Yeah, I know. Many of them are inoperative. So there is this trusty wristwatch. Oh yeah, many people, especially younger people, don't wear wristwatches anymore. So maybe we have some variety of digital display that shows the time. The time might not be easy to see, or we might not have a digital device. So what's left? Of course, there is that trusty mobile phone. That's fine, but let's make sure we keep the phone accessible, not just on the passenger seat where it can easily fall off. Does that sound too obvious? Well, maybe not. The pilot reported that he flew to a tower-controlled airport to practice simulated engine failure approaches and landings. The pilot reported, quote, "It was a nice afternoon to fly. I flew to a control tower with a long runway to practice engine loss of power on landings and takeoffs. After about my fifth approach, I reached the runway high and aborted the landing for a straight and level flight along the upwind. I was thinking of practicing a no-flaps landing. This would require landing and taxiing back. I wanted to know what time it was. I looked over to the other seat for my phone and did not see it. I reached down behind the seats, feeling and looking for it. I must have been pulling on the yoke at the same time and not recognizing the back pressure. I did not think I had my eyes inside the cockpit very long. However, when I looked up, the first thing I noticed was the yawing to the right. I don't remember anything after that, but it had stalled and landed on the nose and the right wing. The airplane sustained substantial damage to the right wing. The NTSB probable cause finding states, quote, "The pilot's exceedance of the airplane's critical angle of attack during the departure due to being distracted by looking for his phone." End quote. So our little lesson learned is that we must remember that our primary job is to fly that airplane. And this pilot was in communication with a control tower. We can always ask ATC for a time check. This accident involved a flight instructor providing instruction to a commercial pilot in a Diamond DA-42. The flight instructor reported that the pilot receiving instruction was on the controls and that he told the instructor that he was feeling some motion sickness due to light turbulence in the pattern. The instructor reported that, during their discussion, they became distracted and did not configure the airplane for landing. The pilot reported that they did not complete the landing checklist. Subsequently, the airplane landed with the landing gear retracted. The airplane sustained substantial damage to both engine gearboxes, though neither of the occupants received any injuries. The NTSB probable cause finding states, quote, "The pilot receiving instructions failure to extend the landing gear and the flight instructor's failure to verify that the landing gear was extended due to distraction, which resulted in a gear-up landing." End quote. So our little lesson learned is to avoid gear-up landings by following a written checklist plus a memory checklist on final. That might be the old GUMPs for gas, undercarriage, mixture, props, or whatever fits the kind of airplane you're flying. Distractions are everywhere, and these two simple steps can mitigate their effects and dramatically reduce the likelihood of a gear-up landing. Also, maintain a sterile cockpit during taxi and critical phases of flight. This accident did not cause any injury, but it did result in substantial damage to the airplane. After landing, the pilot did not follow the center taxi line guide, but instead taxied right of the center line so that he could reach the taxiway as soon as possible. He was momentarily distracted while adjusting the radio as he was attempting to leave the runway. During his pre-flight inspection the next morning, he found damage to the pressurized cabin and the right propeller. Upon further examination, the pilot noted that the right propeller had struck a taxiway light, which had dislodged the light and broken off the blade tip, and that the propeller blade tip had struck the cabin. The airplane sustained substantial damage to the cabin. The NTSB probable cause, quote, "The pilot's failure to follow the taxiway centerline guide and his distraction due to adjusting the radio, which resulted in his failure to maintain clearance from a taxiway light after landing and while taxiing to the ramp." End quote. Our little lesson here is this. After landing, exit the runway, cross the hold line, and come to a stop before performing other tasks. I know that someone is thinking of a situation in which this is not practical, and that may be true. But in nearly all landings, this is possible and can avoid many needless accidents or incidents. Thanks for watching part 2 of Sometimes It's the Little Things. Please don't forget to visit vectorsforsafety.com and sign up for our newsletter. Also, please subscribe to this channel so that you will be informed of new videos when they are released. I'm Gene Benson, and please always remember to fly like your life depends on it.